My name is Carrie Henley, and I am a former pre-pro student. I'm also a former academy student, and I've been working this summer with ATMTC's summer program in Glen Echo directing and choreographing. So I'm a multidisciplinary artist with a focus in disability awareness. And I consider myself to perform in all of the disciplines pretty strongly, but I'm most heavily an actor. I came up with this notion somehow in my head because of the state of things publicly. And when you look at Broadway, you see able-bodied people doing kick lines and the Rockettes and these fancy dances. And I would look at that and I would go, okay, so disabled actors don't make it in musical theater. And that was really hard to grow up with as a kid. But coming here to pre-pro, I felt like that wasn't ever a factor. And it was seen far beyond my physical ability, and my ability to dance became something that defines me more than my disability does. I worked here with Tony on dance a lot in the past, not the last year, 2 years ago. 2 years ago when I was here in senior year, we worked a lot on disability and dance together because I have a progressive disability, so it got a lot worse since my first time in pre-pro. And I had to kind of relearn dance around the fact that I knew how to dance, which is frustrating when it's like, I know that dance move, I know how to do it, I know what I should be focusing on, and my body just doesn't do it. And we kind of reworked it into this thing where, okay, what can you do? What's the idea of the dance move, and how do you express that in a different way? And all of a sudden, dance became less of a restriction and a barrier and more of like a free-form place for me to express myself through movement and to actually be able to move in a way that I felt good about, and to be able to not just accept my disability, but embrace it. I will sing Tony's praises forever. He is the most outstanding theater professional I have ever worked with in my life, and that I think I will ever have the privilege of working with. You so rarely find someone who is a devoted full-time theater professional working that is so fully invested in teaching, because he knows exactly what the industry is like. He knows what he's doing. He's been doing it for such a long time. And where that comes isn't to looking at kids through are you ready for the industry right now? I mean, he does do that to show us how we need to grow, but he doesn't ever expect us to be. And he gives us very real expectations of this is where you're gonna need to be, and it's very doable, but you need to put in the work. I remember that throughout my senior year of pre-pro, he was always very consistent on reminding me that he thought of my disability not as a disability, but just as an injury, and that I could work to get back to the point where I was at. I could work to get to a point where I could dance and move freely how I wanted to, and that I didn't have to, like, it wasn't always going to be like this. And that was very helpful for me. When I was a little kid who was very clumsy, he was very, very supportive, and he always has been, in that when someone needs help and asks for it and is trying to get better, he will give you everything you need to succeed. And like when I was a kid, I was like, oh, I'm having trouble with this dance combination. Okay, let me show you. I'll help you with that. And it wasn't like an overly excessive, like you put your foot here, you put this foot here. No, it was, he expected better from us. He expected us to get ourselves to a professional standard, but he was also there every step of the way, answering questions and giving us what we needed whenever we couldn't get ourselves to the next step. Yeah, so I applied to 6 schools, and I ended up getting into all of them. And I got into NYU, which was my first choice, and I applied early decision. And so I'm at NYU now. The advice I would give to students who are entering the pre-professional program or aspiring to be musical theater performers is, first and foremost, your parents are going to love me. You don't need a degree to go into musical theater. You do need training. Whether you get that at pre-pro or at college or at a different conservatory, you need training. You need a significant amount of it for musical theater. And you can get that however you decide to, but you need to be prepared that it's a serious industry that you really have to work hard to succeed at. And that if you are someone who's working hard and feels like it's not paying off, it will. Hard work is the thing that gets you there. And this is really the place to be, in my opinion, in this whole area. If you want to study theater seriously, I've talked to people who did other similar programs to pre-pro in the area, and their experiences just didn't seem as full and rounded out. In that the people who would go into those programs just seemed like they weren't as excited about what they were doing. They weren't as truly driven to get somewhere. The faculty weren't maybe as driven as they could have been in pushing kids during the classes. And pre-pro just feels like it's a tight-knit family of artists who want to help each other succeed.